Hey guys, welcome to the Model Citizen Podcast. We're your hosts, Hunter
and Michaela.
We are so excited to have you here. All right, let's dive in.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Model Citizen Podcast. We are here again. I have my radio voice on again.
I was just going to say that was a very welcome back to the Model Citizen Podcast. We're your hosts.
You guys, we have quite an episode today. I feel
excited.
Like if anything was going to be representative of what we really wanted to accomplish with this podcast, an episode much akin to the one that we are about to do is kind of that, in that we have questions, and we have questions about dating and sex and all the fun, juicy, meaty stuff that we love to talk about here on Model Citizen.
We sure do. So we asked you guys your questions about dating, relationships, sex, etc., and we compiled a good amount of questions.
We did, yeah. So
I'm so excited to dive in.
We did. We are. I'm so excited. Yeah, we opened it up to you guys and we said, "Hey, give us all of your questions about if it's dating, if it's marriage, if it's sex, anything like that. And we will try and answer as many as we can, within the next hour." But you guys had some really interesting questions. And a lot of times, this is what I love about opening it up to you guys, is we can get different, questions and just hear from different people, like the things that they're struggling with, because we're all different. But then I feel like there's so many people that are struggling with the same things out there. Hoping we can maybe bring a little bit of, illuminate a little bit for you. Because we are two old bags. We're two old married bags at this point. We've been through it. We've seen a lot. We've seen too much. Honestly, we've seen too many. And you know what I'm talking about.
Way too many.
Way too many of them. I've seen too many
small,
in my day.
In between, the whole gamut. So it's funny. I sent you a list.
You did.
Of questions.
Yep.
Now, I want to start off with our most asked question.
Oh, jumping
now,
right into
we're going to dip right into listen, we don't hold back on the tea here. So for this question, I swear to you when I tell you, 80% of the questions was this one. And I think you said the same.
Yep.
And it's interesting because we can both answer this very much so, because we both deal with this. So getting right into it, the question is, I am insecure about dating and having sex with a guy that is smaller than me. I'm also having a hard time getting over being at peace with being larger than your significant other.
A good question. And
very good.
I did tweet something not too long ago that I said to the effect of, if you're a big gal, feel comfortable and confident getting on top. And if he dies, he dies.
Hey,
and that's the end of the podcast. And that's the end of the podcast. And it's so good to see you. Thank you guys so much. Make sure you like and subscribe. That is our blanket.
That'll go on our tombstone, dude.
That is our blanket response.
Yes.
If he dies, he dies. And you know what? R.I.P. We miss him. We love him. God bless. Godspeed.
If he was going to go out anyway.
I mean, that's the thing. If he's going to go out anyway.
Yes.
That I can't think of a better way that a man would want to go out.
So here's the thing. I have always dated guys that were thinner than me.
Mm-hmm.
I dated one guy that was shorter than me.
We'll call him Herman. We'll call him Herman.
And I've dated mostly guys that are thinner than me. And it's interesting because I used to feel the same way where I was like, oh my God. How girls can be like, oh my God, we had sex. And then afterwards I put on his big comfy sweatshirt and it was so big and baggy and his sweats. It was so fun. I was like, you can fit in his sweatshirt?
I've never met a guy's sweatshirt that didn't fit me perfectly.
No.
It's you expect to put it on and it's going to be and you're going to look like Kate Hudson in a rom-com, walking around the kitchen, making avocado toast. And it's just the shirt is to your knees.
You're wearing his socks.
You're wearing his socks and they're like bunching up because they're just so big and
your
baggy.
calves are so like if I wear my husband's socks, I'm cutting circulation off. My husband is a through and through large, like from J. Crew.
I think my husband and I are the same size.
And I'm not kidding. I think my husband and I are the same size too in shoes.
Yeah.
Like
it's much more common than people understand, I think. I think we've all been like sold this idea of men are just these big, strong beasts and girls are just supposed to be these like tiny little, like, and listen, if you are small, that's amazing. Home. That's great. But like, that's not the only body dynamic that exists in the world. It's also not the only body dynamic men and women. It's like, that because there's so many different like facets of that world, it's impossible for that to be like the one standard, like the big, tall, hulking man and the tiny little girl. Like, no, that can't be the only.
Because every movie, it's like the jock and the cheerleader, right? And it's like the like business guy who's like big and brawn, and then like the petite girl, which like that exists, but so does someone who is, you know, a 3X with a size large.
Yep, it exists and it's sitting right in front of me.
It's sitting right in front of you guys.
And, but I can understand where this person is coming from because we are shown this so much in the media. Like this is the like typical couple, and I'll never forget when I had my first boyfriend and I had that opportunity to throw his hoodie on, and just have that like snuggle moment. And I could barely get my arms.
And then they're just looking at
through. And so I'm sitting there in like one of these.
Yes.
And I'm like, classic. Is this your mom's? And of course it's his like sleeping sweater, right? So it's a little extra baggy on him to begin with. It was such a large dose of reality of like, oh, there's a size difference here. Now, granted, I definitely had a penchant, if you will, if I could bring in some French to the podcast today. I definitely had a particular like leaning towards the guys that wore skinny jeans. So I was already setting myself up for failure to compare my jeans to their jeans because their jeans looked like two straw tubes. My jeans were for a plus size teenage young girl.
Yes.
And so that was traumatizing. But we found a way past it mentally.
Yes.
Tell me how you found your way past that like size discrepancy issue.
So I'm straight up off the bat, honest with any guy I met. You know what I mean? I'll be like, listen, I am no small gal. Not only am I larger as in weight, I'm 6 feet tall, flat foot. So if I even wear a Converse, I'm pushing 6'1".
She's running with the best of them out there.
I'm 6'3". So we are walking in and I am there, dude. So, for me, it was kind of being straight up with these guys. Like, listen, like, this is the deal. Like, this is who I am. I mean, when I first started dating, though, I will say I was really self-conscious about it.
Yeah.
I think especially when it comes to like sex and things like that, you're kind of like, oh my God, like, how is this even going to work? Like, like, I don't want him to feel like it, like you mentioned, like if someone's on top, you're like, is this like going to hurt him?
Suffocate?
Like, yeah. And like, I even asked my husband that now and he's like, you're kidding me. Yeah. He's like, we're literally built for this.
Right.
We're built for this.
Right.
And I think that like finding that person that never questions your size, never questions your body, never questions anything, and really just uplifts you. Like what I love about my husband is right off the bat, he was like, I like have to say, like, I just think you're amazing, like through and through. Like, I love that you're curvy. Like he loves that I'm like plus size. Like he is like into it,
Yeah.
So he particularly never gave me a reason to feel self-conscious. Now, again, I have felt self-conscious in the past, and getting through that was honestly being open with my partner. And I think, communication is the number one thing, and being like, listen, I feel insecure about this, and here's why. And I think talking through that and having that moment of, so they understand where you're coming from. I think especially as women, we are fed. Like you open Cosmo and it's like, when's the last time you saw like a ripped guy with like a plus size woman on top?
It's so rare. It's so rare. A stock image of that, I can't. No. We don't know her. We would have to look and honestly see if that even exists at all.
So I was always like, oh, I won't be able to do these things, right? Like I won't be able to ever feel sexy and like, womanly. I won't ever be able to feel that because of my size and my height. But that's so not true. I think the more I was open and honest with my partner and also being experimental, right? Like once you kind of get past that conversation with them and they're also willing to experiment, then you can kind of have fun with it, right? Like, and you can try new things and you can try different positions. And hey, when you're a larger girl, like you can't always do everything. And I think that also coming to terms with like, that's totally fine. Listen, I'm 6.5 months pregnant right now. You want to talk about not being able to do anything?
Limiting
you get one position on your side, like you're like half asleep because you're like so comfortable. Okay. So
you finally get comfortable and then he's like coming up the back door, like, good morning. Like,
literally like, so I think also coming to terms with that and being okay with that and knowing that it's so much more about you both having an experience and you both appreciating each other. And if your partner can't do that and isn't willing to do that, run for the fucking hills.
Yeah, honey, it's time to lose his number. And I agree with you 1,000%. And, I always say that something that kind of helped me when I was growing up with, being a plus size first young girl and then a woman is I had a lot of male friends, right? And so that really kind of shifted my perception because I saw them finding so many women attractive.
Yes.
Now, I need to preface this by saying it is not all about the male gaze. I don't give a fuck about that. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm saying that when you were young and you're kind of looking around and you're like, oh, like what? Like I want to be found attractive, right? Like, cause I feel like it's just like a natural thing that people want, they want somebody to maybe find them attractive. I'm not saying everybody does, of course, but you grow up and you're like, oh gosh, like I wonder what it would be like to have a boyfriend or a girlfriend or a partner or however. And I had a lot of guy friends and they would find like every woman basically they saw walking around attractive. They'd be like, oh my God, she's so hot. She's so beautiful, whatever. Mm-hmm. And so although I was seeing so much plastered on the media, right? And like anyone who has watched porn, I think will see that like there's this like ideal body type that they are always having that is like so wild. And of course you're going to watch that.
They've never had an ingrown hair in their life. I don't know how that is, where we're finding people that have not had ingrown hairs down there. I'm like, literally, how are you so smooth? Like, how do you have no razor bumps? Dude.
So that's what we're met with when we, if you are somebody who watches porn or you grew up or whatever, I mean, that's a whole conversation we can definitely have. But I was surrounded by these boys that were like, they found so many women attractive, right? Mm-hmm. And so although I was seeing all of that, and although I think that those things can definitely be harmful, I feel fortunate that I had that unique experience because I was like, oh, okay, yes, they do find Britney Spears they find her to be like so hot, right? Mm-hmm. But they also would be like, oh my gosh, that girl that we just, were at the grocery store who was ringing us is also so attractive. And so I started to get this like very unique perspective about what men find attractive. Mm-hmm. And
you really give men too much credit because honestly,
that's what I'm getting to. They were giving them too much credit.
You really do. And my husband's the first to say it as well. He's always like, literally, I think women have been led to believe that men, first of all, should even have this say. Like, I'm sorry, but we hold all the power. It's like they literally find if you are just living and breathing, like for the majority, they're down and it's wild and it's a problem.
It's definitely a situation and it's definitely something to comment on. But it definitely, I think in the long run, it helped my perspective and my perception of myself because I was like, it's not always just one body type. No. It's not always just one person, look, race, anything. Like everyone has different tastes, right? So I would have some friends that were interested in curvier women. I would have some friends who, had different preferences and, preferences is like definitely a whole conversation. But, I say that to say that it really opened my eyes up to the fact that like men are a lot easier to please and impress. And now also to say that it's not always about the man. It needs to be about you too. Like, are you getting pleasure from the situation?
Always be about you.
Well, I do think it's a tango. I think
also
because
just being like, it's only about you.
It's only about you. Poor Brian is literally just blue balls in the corner. Just never.
I'm just
hasn't had a moment of relief in 4 years.
4.5 years.
My kind of like outlook on sex has always been there maybe need to be a compromise.
Yeah.
And as far as like what one, not in the sense of like, I don't want to go there, but like if there's a position
Right.
maybe that you're feeling a little self-conscious about, but but he's like saying, I think this would be really, fun to try. I understand the self-conscious part of that, an aspect of that, and why you might be like, oh, I don't know if I want to be like bent over with my cheeks spread apart,
right, and my belly hanging,
and my belly hanging. I'm here to tell you,
they have no clue.
They don't care about it, and I'm going to repeat, they don't care.
The thoughts
they are
there.
So into this moment. Yes. I promise you, dear listener.
Yes.
You are so hot.
Yeah.
Like, I wish sometimes like I could put people in their partner's brains and let them know like I promise you think you are like so hot. Any position that you're getting in, they're like, oh my God.
And that kind
of, if they're not,
then run for the fucking hills, dude.
Run for the fucking, as if I can quote Hunter from 10 minutes ago, run for the fucking hills, quote Hunter. Yes. Run for the hills. Because I promise you guys, I promise you there's a man, a woman, somebody out there.
Yes.
There's probably a lot of people.
And this segues me into the next question of how do you get naked and feel comfortable with someone when you have stretch marks and rolls? Again, going back to that. If I put my husband in a room and I said, tell me where my stretch marks are.
He'd probably be like,
I have no. He would probably say, what stretch marks? And I have them all over my stomach, all over my boobs, all over my inner thighs, everywhere. If I said, where are my rolls? Where are my specific rolls? He couldn't tell me.
No idea. Like, you guys think they're paying that much? Come on, if they were paying that much attention, I think the world would be in a much better state right now than it is. And now we're not trying to hate on men. Listen, we love men on this podcast. Love a good guy, but we also gonna kill you. But I have to also say, I have to tell this story, and you can also like input on this story. We had a friend who told us that the guy that she was dating had commented on, and I don't want to make anyone feel self-conscious about this particular body part, but he had commented that she had small nail beds.
We're not joking. This is not a joke.
This was a grown adult.
Yes.
Who commented on another grown adult's nail beds and mentioned that they were too small.
Yes.
Now, there's a lot to unpack there.
There's a lot to unpack.
And there's a lot to that relationship that was coming from not a actual place of where you might think it was. It was a lot of like they needed to break up and didn't like each other anymore. And this man was just looking.
Yes.
When a man is coming for your nail beds, there are bigger issues at hand.
Run for the fucking hills.
If I could just quote, run for the fucking hills. I'll never forget though. I heard this. I sat with it for a moment. I stewed in it.
Mulled it. Yeah.
I mulled it over in the old cranium. And I turned to my husband and I said, hey, so-and-so just told so-and-so that her nail beds are too small.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget my husband goes, what's a nail bed?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like,
they're thinking a hammer and a nail.
Right. It didn't like register. Now, my husband's an intelligent man, right? Like it wasn't a lack of smarts here involved.
No.
He was looking at me like, what are you talking about?
What are the
words?
What is
a nail bed? And what are you talking about? And that is what I'm saying. Like, they don't know what a nail bed is. That particular guy had a situation going on and he just was looking for anything. But generally speaking, that is a good representation. Like, they don't know these like little specific things that we are picking apart, that the media has told us we have to pick apart about our bodies. They're not paying attention.
You know who does know? You know, the only ones who do know? Women. Because men haven't had the same, stress about their body in the way that it looks as women have in the media. I mean, yes, there is definitely needs to be way more representation in male body types, 100%. But as history would show, women have been really picked apart about every little thing, including stretch marks, cellulite, rolls, scarring, whatever it is. So we have been bred to believe all of this stuff, right? And
Yep.
so we go into these situations being so concerned about it. Whereas men, they weren't reading it. They're
No.
not reading it. And if you're a lesbian, oh my God, are you kidding me? You're probably so appreciated by another woman. I
Yeah.
mean, half the times I'm like, how amazing, like
Yeah.
that's incredible. But I know that there's still that aspect that,
Yeah.
have people struggle with as well. But, I think the thing is we have been so ingrained to hate these things about ourselves.
Yep.
Whereas men have never you don't open like a Men's Health and they're like, how to get rid of your stretch marks and cellulite.
Right.
Like
Right.
that's just not what they're talking about. So for them, it's not even a thing.
Right.
Like for me, it's like if my stomach or my rolls are out, Brian's not, ever like holding me going, oh my God, like, wow, you really have rolls. He's like, oh, this is your body. You have
Yeah.
body.
Yeah. Loves
it's
loves your
skin.
body. It's skin. It's part of who you are. Like you're a living, breathing human being. And I
Yeah.
feel like that's really what the right kind of guy is signing up for.
Now there are the wrong kind.
There are many wrong guys. There are a lot of like toxic masculinity and mindsets that I feel like a lot of men have been brainwashed and people have been brainwashed with. And I remember speaking on those same friends that I grew up with. Sometimes they were like, why do I feel like I can't like a certain type of girl, like a type of, like a body type? Like, why do I feel like I can't like a plus size woman? They started getting made fun of for that. And then now they feel some type of way about being attracted to women with multiple different body types. And that is the kind of shit that I'm talking about. Like that is the toxicity in the culture that it's not the reality of how they're thinking.
And if you have a guy who you are dating, and I kind of got a few of these questions too. If you have a guy that you're dating and you're a plus size woman or just anyone that you're dating, and they are hiding you to the public and only keeping your relationship behind doors, I have advice for you. And I will quote myself, as I've said many times through this podcast, run for the fucking hills, because that is not a relationship.
I see some merch coming.
Run for the fucking hills.
Hills.
Because it's not a relationship. You are to be out and open. And I mean, you should both be so proud to just be with each other and like just be out and about. And there's so much happiness that comes with a relationship. And if a man or a woman is not giving you that, move on. Yes, it might be hard and you might be having these, this image in your head of, oh, it'll get better. Or I've had people come to me and say, he told me, we could, do X, Y, and Z once I lose weight. And I'm like, no. You think that's going to change? If he's asking you this stuff now, you think that's going to change? You should never have to change for somebody. You should meet somebody exactly as you are right now in your life, no matter how much baggage you bring, no matter how big or small or whatever size you are. And that person should meet you there halfway and love you just as you are. And there is that person out there for you. Trust me, I've kissed a lot of frogs to find my person.
Too many, dude. Too many. And it's such a good point that you just brought up. And it's something we have probably all seen throughout the years, is that whole idea of like, you have to learn to love yourself before someone else can love you. I am so vehemently against that because I don't think that you need to be some like perfectly pristine person, mentally, physically, like any of that to be loved. Like you right now, as you are sitting there listening to me right now, you are deserved and worthy of love, affection, of care, of kindness, of respect, a partner who will like just love and worship your body for how it is in every state. So whether you are a certain weight, you're fluctuating up and down, all of that, by the way, completely 100% normal. You are deserving of that love right now. That's what I believe. Like, I just don't believe in this idea that you have to be at your best and like at an XYZ weight and you have to be all the...
Has anyone ever?
No,
I've never met someone where I'm my most perfect, confident. I always am coming with a lot of baggage.
It's toxic to be like, you need to be perfect for me to be dating you.
Yeah.
Wait, but are you like, listen, we all have our threshold for the baggage that we can handle and that's fine. But like, don't think that because you have some things going on or you're not like a particular look or whatever, that you're not 100% deserving of somebody to just absolutely think that you are the world of you.
Yeah.
And to respect you and to give you that love that you're so deserving of. I just hope that whoever is listening to this right now, you know that you are so worthy of all of these things, just exactly how you are right now.
Totally. As society, it's kind, with dating and being with a partner who, you know, is one way. I mean, listen, I would love to hear your thoughts. Your husband
Yeah.
is shorter than you. And I think that's
Yeah,
another thing. Like my husband is
absolutely.
much thinner than me. Like I
Right.
mean, my God, the other day he was like, wow, I'm at 200 pounds. I was like, I haven't been 200 pounds until, since I was in,
I think I
since
was
I
in
was
third
like,
grade when I was
yeah,
200
dude, like
pounds.
literally. And so I think that there's both those, where it's smaller than your partner in both weight, but then also in height.
Yeah. And I think that it's funny because anytime I posted on social media photos of Martin and I, because he is shorter than me, we'll get a DM usually from someone who's like, my future husband is shorter than me, and I'm not sure how to feel about it. And my response is always like, you guys look amazing together, first of all.
Yeah.
Like that whole mentality of like the taller husband, shorter wife.
Who
Like,
wrote the rule book?
I don't know who wrote the rule book, but like I'm here to tell you guys, we're rewriting and we're done with that rule book. Like she's gone.
Trash.
We don't know her, trashed. Here's the other thing though, is I've never had that like list of like my husband needs to check off these boxes. I mean, I think that of course there's going to be some things that are like, you don't really want to compromise on, but I do think that because I've never had that like type, it really gave me the opportunity to meet so many different people, right? So whether I was dating somebody who was much taller, much shorter, or much larger or smaller, I was able to kind of like have the opportunity to have so many great relationships.
And we've both had such a hodgepodge of guys we've dated.
Yes. Like it's funny because we'll talk to our friends and a lot of them do have a type, right? I have zero type. A type I've dated so many different like kinds of men from
the
different
guy before my
backgrounds.
husband was tatted from head to face, under eyes to toes. And my husband now is like clean shaven, wears
Looks like a
glasses,
J. Crew
wears a
model.
button up. Yeah. So really we're running the gamut
Yes.
here.
And my husband is a few inches shorter than me. And I'm a tall woman to begin with. I mean, I'm 5'11". I'm already tall. And for me, it never occurred to me the height difference. That was probably the last thing I really thought about because I knew the second you see us in person, you're like, oh, these two are meant to be together.
Yeah.
And I think that there needs to be more of a focus on, is your partner like checking all of those boxes emotionally for you? And I've always been physically attracted to him, and he was always physically attracted to me. It was always like, I want to date, a taller woman. And I find that like so attractive. And I just think that it's so important for people to stop with this like mentality of like who needs to be taller and bigger. Like that's going to be impossible because there are always going to be people that are taller and shorter and different sizes
archaic
than you. It's just wild that we're still in that mentality. So I say, if your husband is shorter than you, my husband is always like, wear the heels. Like I have no issue with my height versus yours. Wear heels, wear your boots, like whatever you feel comfortable wearing, because he finds me like attractive no matter what I'm wearing.
Yeah.
And that's really where we're both so comfortable.
Yeah. Well, when you're 80 and you're in rocking chairs,
yes,
you're not going to be worried if your husband is taller than you or bigger than you.
Yeah.
You're going to be worried that you're with someone who makes you happy and makes you laugh and
you're going to
makes your heart feel good.
If he can get it up still.
If he can get, those are the top things you're worried about.
I mean, if you're going to talk about things you're going to worry about, no, but you're right. And that's the thing is like when I was dating around before I met my husband, I was always like, I looked at it through the lens of who do I want to be sitting in a rocking chair with when I'm 80 and looking back on our lives. Am I really going to care that he's 3 inches shorter than me? Like, is that really going to be the deciding factor on my happiness? Absolutely not. Don't let society take your joy and keep you from loving your partner and feeling confident with your partner at every height and size. Like, do not let the media, they would love nothing more. And listen, we're all about taking the power back. Like, I'm so sorry.
the more you are unhappy with the way that you look, the way that you and your partner are, the way that your sex life is, the more they're making money. They're in it for money. It is a multi-billion-dollar business.
Yeah.
All of this. Hating yourself is a multi-billion-dollar business. So the more you do it, the more they're making money. And it is just continuing this machine. We have to go against it, you know?
Yep.
We just have to.
I'm going to tell you guys something, and I'm going to drop it here on the podcast, a truth bomb. Okay. My very first boyfriend, I was in a relationship with him for 2 years. We never actually had sex to lose our virginity to each other. After he and I split up, I went out on a date with a guy, ended up losing my virginity to him that night.
For God's sake.
On that night. Why? I could sit here and pack it all day long.
Oh, for God's sake.
He was really hot.
Okay, well.
Now, listen, he was really hot. Now, I wasn't ready and feeling like I wanted to go there with my boyfriend at the time. I was a teenager. I was young. I wasn't fully feeling like he was the person that I wanted to do that with, right?
Yeah.
This person that I met, though, the pressure was off, I felt.
Yeah.
That pressure that had built up, you know, it just was gone. I felt so much more free and comfortable and confident. And it's just so interesting because you think you're going to date somebody, you're going to be more into them, you guys are going to lose your virginity to them. There's no rule book, you guys. There's no rule book about when you do it, how you do it. When you have that first kiss, like you could be in your teens, you could be in your 50s. There's no rule book, and it's not fair that we are expecting each other or expecting ourselves to follow this like one timeline and guideline, because what we're comfortable with changes, and it could change day by day, and it could change minute by minute. And that's right. Like, we want to empower you to make your own decisions for yourself. I mean, I think it's cool, actually, you know.
And I think that, you know, if it comes from a place of, you know, being sad because you just haven't, you know, maybe you've been on dates and you haven't, you know, found the right person, whatever it is, you know, yes, I understand that feeling of feeling bummed out if, you know, it's coming from that place. But I think that, again, there is somebody out there for you. And like I said, you get to experience all of this for the first time. And I think that that's so special. And I think that it almost is like romantic in a way. You know, I mean, I've had friends who have saved themselves for marriage, and, you know, they, you know, have said like, it was just like so beautiful and so awesome, and how great to be mature enough. I don't believe at 15 I was mature enough to understand what was going on. B, it didn't feel like beautiful to me. It felt like, oh, if I don't do this, like he's going to be mad, which is awful. And no one should ever feel like that.
Yeah. And those are where those bad stories about losing your virginity come from.
I think that there's definitely so much to look forward to. Don't feel embarrassed by it. Your person is out there and it will happen. And I'm sure it'll be magical. And if it's not, then welcome to the club, girlfriend. Do you have any tips for navigating dating someone who's divorced?
I would say, if anyone, between the two of us.
Yeah. So my husband is divorced. He was married.
Not from you.
Before me. Yeah, not from me. He was married before me, and he has a child with her, my stepdaughter. So he was the first person I've ever dated that was divorced. Now, at first, I was really nervous about it because I knew going into it, I wasn't going to experience a lot of the firsts with him. Like, I was feeling bad for myself at first. I was like, oh, I'm not going to be able to like experience his first like wedding day or like his first proposal or, you know, whatever. Like, but I really quickly got over that because of the person that he is. And because it was my first with him, you know, him and me. Now, dealing with the ex, luckily, I'm very lucky that she's wonderful and a nice person. And I've heard horror stories from friends who have dealt with, you know, overbearing exes, or, you know, people who have just really kind of overstepped the boundaries as far as, you know, their relationship. Luckily, she is not that way whatsoever. So that made it a little bit easier. Now, getting into the divorce part, it's interesting, but I don't want it to sway you. You know, yes, you are bringing in this baggage. You are bringing in a previous relationship. And especially if they have a child, you're bringing in that. And maybe the divorce isn't finalized. Maybe they're going through divorce and you have to kind of deal with, the legal side of things. And I know that that can be messy and that can be stressful. But I think when you can really take all of that out of it and focus on you and that person and your life together and really create that special bond together, I think that something really special happens because it's almost like I had a friend kind of liken it to like training meals, right? Like it's like, okay, like, especially like my husband was with his ex for many, many years. So I was like, okay, he was committed. I like that. He is a commitment guy.
It's a great way to look at it.
Like
and that's super positive.
Yeah, you have to kind of be positive and look at it that way and go, okay, so, these are the things that didn't work in their marriage and that's fine. And so now I know where his threshold is on certain things or whatever, and back and forth. But I don't think you should ever sway away from anyone just because they're divorced or have been married before or have children before. I mean, my stepdaughter's like the greatest thing I could have ever gotten out of it. She's amazing.
She's amazing.
I think that there is room there to grow together. And sometimes if he is going through or she is going through a divorce, it can be rough, but just know that you'll get through it, and your relationship will have stood that test, one test in the book. And like I said, a lot of people come with baggage.
Yeah, it's like we were saying, a lot of people do come with that baggage and you guys are in such an incredible marriage. And then, she is also in a wonderful marriage.
Yes.
And had that stopped you, you wouldn't have this wonderful relationship. You wouldn't have this like baby on the way, And I love that you just said to kind of turn things into that positive, like, yes, he had a relationship, but now you know that he is a man who is, can commit. Yeah. He's a person who can commit to another human at that level. Right. And I feel like sometimes that's a huge issue in relationships. Like, will this person commit to me on that level that I want them to? Right. And you've already seen that they are willing and happy, and excited to do that. So I love that answer. And I love that question because I think a lot of people, especially navigating the dating world these days. And, unfortunately with the rates that people are splitting up, unfortunately, that portion, we never love to see people, necessarily splitting up, but, when it's for the best and then you can find that other person, it's just awesome, And you guys have such a strong and incredible marriage that we're going to see even more and more through this podcast because, and y'all are one of my favorite married people.
Thank you.
Married old bags.
I think it almost helps, because it's like, okay, he's been through this before and I'm sure so same in her relationship. And, maybe they grew apart, but, doesn't mean that they're not right for somebody else.
Absolutely.
So just give it a go and give it time. And if you love him and you're into him, why wouldn't you, know?
Yeah, absolutely. Go for it.
Go for it.
Go for it. Now we're being positive. Now we're being toxic positive gals.
I know.
We'll definitely do another episode like this very soon. But, we always love to hear your guys' feedback. So, we will be throwing up a post on the Instagram and we just would love to hear either your guys' questions or even if you guys also have some advice, if you've been through these things, if you have felt this way before, come on the Instagram. Let's have a conversation about it, lift each other up and, just provide that community that we really, I think, all need.
You said it best, sister. All right,
as
everybody.
I always do.
Thanks for hanging out with us today. Go follow us on Instagram at the Model Citizen Podcast, and we will see you next time.
Love you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you guys so much for listening. You can catch a new episode of Model Citizen every Thursday. And please don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any of the action. We want to hear from you, so please leave a rating and review. Follow us on socials for all the behind-the-scenes action at Hunter McGrady and Nikhil McGrady. And don't forget, you are worthy, you are loved, and you are capable of doing all wonderful things. Bye, guys.